I'd like to start tonight with a brief monologue. Creating a podcast is easy. The simple process of taking the spoken word, converting that into a digital format, and publishing that format online is a very simple and straight-through process. But it's difficult to create a show. It's difficult to get a group of people to work together and create something that's entertaining and that builds an audience. And it's difficult to grow that audience, to have it become, a community, eventually a network that supports and grows with you. It's difficult to create a source of entertainment that spans regions of play, that crosses lands separated by water, and click and become something that you love and you watch from week to week. It's difficult to create a show. And yet through all these difficulties, we find moments that the podcast hosts live for, that we love and we remember. Moments that you remember, the audience member, the community fanatic. Those of you who have been with us since the beginning and would stay with us on to the end. Moments that after we hang up our microphones and the dust settles on our podcast feed, yearning for that one more episode that's never going to come. Those moments last. And it's one of those moments that I'd like to share with you tonight. Been podcasting for 6 years now. A year and a half of which has been with the Trinity Force Podcast Network. A marquee, really, of my career. Not the first, certainly not the last. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Motkanora Meringue, and this is Poppy Watch 2015.
Oh, boy.
So worth.
Just when we thought there wasn't going to be anything that
It's
strange.
unicorns of love. It's the if you play stand-up versus fanatic, it's not going to end well.
That's
You
how
gotta
it
pull out the old picks. Poppy, one of the champions Unicorns of Love used to qualify for the LCS about a year
They have the
ago.
range on it
Second
right now,
push.
but they're trying to bait this one out. Ilias jumps a bit early. They do land the bola, and Chachi puts him up against the wall. First blood over to Vincent Chachi.
Looked very simple. Huni clearly did not expect the damage with him.
Let me demonstrate hammer diplomacy. Valorant will know harmony.
Poppy Watch 2015.
Their defeat is non-negotiable.
Kill as Reckless takes down the turret. Fnatic look to end this game quicker than we've seen this entire split, and Fnatic will become the first team in LCS history to do it. The perfect split, 18-0.
Hello and welcome to the T-Force LCS Rundown. My name is Mark Anorum. We are live amongst a Poppy Watch. This is the real deal, folks. This isn't a game. This isn't the promotional tournament.
Yet.
This is a real Poppy Watch. We had Poppy Watch in the LCS.
I hate you so much.
I tricked Tom.
You
Goes to
preface
such
this.
lengths.
You preface this with, man, I had to do this through my phone, and like my computer's melting. I'm like, I don't have my soundboard, and I was like, yeah, there's gonna be no Poppy Watch. There's gonna be nothing. It's gonna get breezed over. He starts with this presidential election swearing-in ceremony speech, and it's
Came
all
from the heart.
for fucking Poppy. I hate
It's
you so
always
much.
for Poppy. And joining me for those 1.5 years, really, of greatness is Tom Optimist Tom.
This is my vocal and physical manifestation of giving you the finger.
I also have Chris Ringler with me.
Hey, you finally said my actual name this time instead of wondering what we're gonna call me.
Yeah,
That's like what? Like
notice I didn't call
week
you
number
anything special.
7, 8 for me. 9 even. Like, oh my
And
god!
joining us this week, special guest, new member of the Sheen Props Initiative. We have Sean Jigglypuff Jaffe.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Sean, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Sean Duffy. I play as my IGN on League is Jiggly Duff. So if anyone wants to play with me, let me know. Hit me up. I've been playing the game since it came right out of beta. Season 1. I've been following LCS since Season 2. I didn't know what the heck was going on in the first season. I don't think anyone really did, even those playing. Been a CLG fan since their first roster.
Man after my own heart.
Yeah, I'm
Congratulations.
really enjoying this split so far, especially with Tilted since MSI. Really dropping the ball. It's been great, so it's good to be here, especially this week.
And he loves Poppy.
He does love
Sean
And I do love Poppy. I really love that Poppy.
Poppy is a champion after Sean's own heart.
Well, speaking of this week, we do have quite a show for you this week. I'm going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time. Due to some weird technical heat-related malfunctions with my computer, I can hear myself right now, and it's the most maddening thing ever. So if I just randomly stop talking or start slurring my speech, that is because I'm listening to myself. And unlike you guys, I hate that. So let's talk some LCS. So nothing really big happened this week. Not at all.
Nothing at all.
Some brackets or something like that. Forgiven was being a dick or something like that. Pretty much a gloss over a week. No, lots of huge things happened if you weren't paying attention. We do have the finals in each region's discovered. So this week, we are going to cover each round of those finals that we have at least prepared for now for each region. And then I'm going to give a little bit of time to the crew to gush over the games from this week. Ones that we don't cover in inherently talking about the teams that we're going to be talking about in the brackets. So let's kick it off. Europe as usual.
Best region.
Let's talk about who made it. And then we'll talk about who didn't. And then we'll talk about how they're going to do. So, round 1, we're going to have H2K versus Giants, Unicorns of Love versus Rocket. The H2K Giants game will go on to play Fnatic, RIP. UOL and Rocket will go on to play Origin. Now, remind the viewers at home, gentlemen, explain to how the bracket system works. What are we looking at? Best of 3s, best of 5s? Hit us.
Ready, set, calm.
I think it's all best of 5s, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I should double check that. Yeah, seriously, it was all best of 5s last split. So yes, it looks like it's gonna be best of 5s, and the winner of the summer playoffs from both NA and EU will auto qualify for Worlds, and the losers will receive circuit points, where said circuit points are going to seed them in a regional qualifier bracket, aka the Gauntlet, where the most points that has not already auto-qualified for Worlds, first place being the summer split winner, second place being the person the team who has the most championship points. The third place spot will go to whoever makes it through this Gauntlet, where it is the most points remaining, and then the second most points remaining, and then the third and fourth most points remaining will play each other first. The winner moves on to the next challenger, and the winner at the end of that will be the third seed from Worlds from both regions. So in this fantasy scenario, if Fnatic continues their undefeated dominance, they will auto-qualify, and then either Unicorns of Love or H2K, based off of the way they finish, will be the first point holder, which will go to Worlds, and then the other teams will have to battle it out through the Gauntlet bracket, which makes this playoff bracket all too important for teams like Origin.
So let me ask a silly question, because I already know the answer, but I feel like I need to ask it.
So silly, Mob.
What are the chances that Fnatic don't win the finals?
It's actually, so here is the interesting thing, because all of EU LCS and NA LCS is a best of 1 format. And even though we did see Fnatic play at MSI, know that they can adapt to a best-of-5 format, we don't know anything about their opponents. We know that last split, Unicorns of Love surprised everybody by being really freaking good at picks and bans in a best-of-5 scenario, whereas this split and last split, they went 9-9, so they split everything down the middle. So it's very interesting to see how some of these teams come in and react to picks and bans and do side choices and all that kind of jazz, because you're going to be able to see teams picking red side specifically to counteract with a mid lane pick, like we see Gravity trying to do in North American LCS a lot. We'll see teams being able to take blue side to get the first pick and secure that and ban certain things away, and all the little pick and ban politics that go on. But Fnatic obviously has the best shot at winning, but I think that honestly they have the toughest competition in the semifinals, because they have to take on either H2K or Giants, probably going to be H2K in that one. And I think H2K, if anybody, is the team that usually comes into matches with the most preparation, at least from an early game standpoint. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that pans out.
I've gotten this sense that H2K and Giants are both teams that are pretty inconsistent at this point in the split. I mean, why are you giving it so much to H2K over Giants? And Sean or Chris, do you guys have any thoughts on this matchup?
Personally, I think H2K is actually the second best team in Europe. I think they're significantly stronger than Origen. I think Origen has one game plan. They can execute it pretty well, but if you can outpick and ban them, which H2K has done against them, and which teams have been doing, and it's why they've been losing, you win. They're really poor if their game plan isn't going well. They're not playing XPK is not playing like the XPK of old. He's very passive. He sits in lane. He lets everything else kind of fall down around him. And when he goes to pick up the pieces, half the time the map's on fire and the game's over. And I think H2K's biggest strength is their pick and ban. Their coaching staff, Prawley and whoever their analysts are, I think deserve huge props, because they've done a significantly incredible job, I think, this whole split. And I really do think they're second best.
What's interesting to your point, though, is that H2K doesn't have to play Origin. They have to beat Fnatic first. And if they... I'm
actually looking at the bracket on LoL
Yes,
Esports.
H2K and Giants play Origin, and Fnatic has to play Unicorns of Love or Rocket.
Yeah, it's swapped. I was going to say that before, but...
Oh, I'm the worst.
Yeah,
that's okay.
So they will be playing. It'll be H2K Giants. I think H2K will take it.
Wow,
okay,
no,
melted.
that changes everything.
Your bracket melted with the...
Melted bracket. Yeah, there you go.
Tom just
everything is melting on your tongue.
Personally, I think that when it comes to H2K and Giants, I think that the preparation H2K puts in oftentimes outweighs some of their poor decision-making in the mid-game, which kind of has been a bane for most of the EU LCS teams. H2K, for example, have normally a very strong pick ban phase. They prioritize the champions that they want to pick up. Their main weakness is maybe Lulex in his champion pool in the jungle, whereas maybe you could just pick him like Gragas, you could pick him maybe Rek'Sai, and then you can pick him Nidalee in certain niche cases, especially with Nidalee being a lot more popular in recent patches. But that's about it. So if you can maybe target down Lulex, but then you have to worry about giving Odwamne something like Rumble you can carry on, giving Ryu a comfort pick in the mid lane, and giving Karnan either Kalista or Sivir, which just kind of seems like a no-no. And if you pair that with either a Thresh or an Alistar from Kasing, you're going to be in for a lot of trouble. So I think H2K, they definitely have the meta picks down pat, and the week off in between the end of the split and the beginning of the playoffs, I think, is the week they need to kind of adjust to the latest patch. A lot of the struggles we've seen with them in the last week of LCS seems to really have been focused around the jungle, or focused around what has changed in the mid lane, and what items are more viable than others, and the most optimal build paths. Have we seen Ryu rushing Rylai's Crystal Scepter after Marilla, Namakon, and Ahri in the mid lane, trying to feel things out and stuff like that? Whereas Giants, they go in with a pick and ban phase. They're just all right. I think Audrey actually said this in the interview on Friday night. It was the second day where they interviewed him after they won their match, and he kind of said, because they picked I think they had like a Varus in the mid lane, and then they had Ezreal that was picked earlier, and they wound up like switching up the AD carry and their mid laner and like kind of playing mind games like that. And I believe he in the interview actually said like, yeah, we didn't exactly know what our comp was going to look like until we actually picked everything, and then we just kind of made it work. So when you do that against a team that has all the preparation of their pick ban phase like H2K, Giants might be able to get one of those comeback victories that they have a lot of the times. But if you give H2K, since this case they're the higher seed, they're going to get pick and ban priority, like choosing red side, blue side for games 1, 3, and 5. I think like if anything, Giants take game 2, but H2K take 1, 3, and 4 at least.
I don't know. I mean, you've got me convinced on H2K versus Giants. I just don't think Giants have the consistency. They don't have as much experience in the best of 5, I think, as H2K does. But when you look at Origin, I mean, first of all, Origin has a 2-0 split over H2K. That is not wrong, because I just checked that. And then look at the lineup they have. I mean, these guys have been doing best of 5s forever.
So
amazing. So
Origin's weakness is their tendency to get into scrappy fights, which is exactly what the old Fnatic did all the time, and it's what the new Fnatic has patched up and has let them kind of coast through to a more stable mid game. So Origin's weakness is their overextension and their tendency to mix up passivity and farming with needing to act and make something happen. For example, Origin in a lot of their games is down at 10 minutes and even or slightly below at 20 minutes. So that kind of tells us, on top of this, they also have, I think it's 10 or 11 first towers taken in 18 games played. So they're the ones making objective moves first, but they're still behind in gold in the early stages of the game. Then they really rely on that like miracle mid-game chaotic team fight where they come out ahead and they snowball off of that. They're not necessarily the strongest in a lane swapping situation, although they do have strong individual laners. But I think their tendency to maybe play either a little bit too passive or a little bit too chaotic, depending on if they center the thing around their jungle and top lane synergy, then they play more chaotic. If they circle it around their mid lane synergy with Xpeke, like Sean was saying earlier, sometimes they play a little bit too passive in those cases. And if Origin doesn't come out even at 20 minutes, then they struggle to find some way to win the actual game. And that's where a team like H2K, who often has a lead at 10 and 20 minutes, can abuse them. The only problem is H2K has never been able to exploit Origin's chaotic fighting, and H2K kind of falls into a trap like we saw last time they played. They would get into a mid lane skirmish or a dragon fight skirmish, Origin would come out ahead, and then all of a sudden H2K couldn't climb back because Origin kept getting picks, kept killing things, kept pushing down the mid lane, and then it just snowballed completely out of control.
Do you think the extra week that Origin's going to get over, we'll just say it's H2K for conversation's sake, is going to matter at all? The fact that they have the bye.
I think maybe a little bit. It gives them a little bit more time to kind of see what H2K is doing with like the new champions and new patch and new items and yada yada yada, because H2K hasn't looked like they've really gotten their footing. So if H2K comes into the best of 5 against Giants and like has a clear game plan, Origin could just watch that best of 5 series and be like, all right, well, we know what you're going to do now, so you can see like, all right, what is your backup plan? Because, like, for example, let's say Lulex picks up a new jungler. Maybe he goes back to the Nidalee. All right, what if they ban Nidalee? All right, what are you going to do next, Lulex? Fall back on the Gragas? All right, we beat you twice when you've done that. So it may benefit Origin just to be able to watch that best of 5.
Okay.
I think there's too many changes with the most recent patch, too. We could see how chaotic this last weekend was. With I'm not even sure how many different champions were played, but it felt like
a lot of Nidalee jungle.
Yeah, tons of Nidalee jungle, but there's changes happening with that. There's so many changes also with the AP itemization and all this other stuff that people are still getting a grasp on. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know if we see this, not this week, but the next week when playoffs actually start. I don't know if we see everyone actually still having a grasp on everything that can be played, whether or not certain things are OP yet, or whether or not there's a secret, like a sleeper, or anything like that. I've been seeing lots of people playing Elise jungle again. The win rate is shot way up the charts.
Really good.
We have no idea. That might be Lulex's greatest champion, and he just hasn't been able to play it. And now suddenly he's got a 4 champion pool. He's got Rek'Sai, Gragas, Nidalee, and Elise, and so now you can't even ban him out anymore. So what's the point? Now you got to target someone else. So I think the changes make it so that it's really hard for Origen to actually nail down anything, given only a 4-game playoff. If they go to a full 5 games, and we see Giants maybe get a little bit better at the pick and bans in between, so we might see H2K's champion pool really stretched out, which would be Origen's. That would be great for them, and they can actually see everything that H2K's prepared for. And then I would say, yeah, that extra week would be great. But if it's just a 3 sweep or even a 4, and Giants never get their pick and bans together, I don't think it's going to help. They'll have an extra week on the patch, and that'll be good for them at least.
I still see it as being an advantage. I mean, you're going to have all the time to practice your own sets, get used to the patch in scrims, while also being able to watch it and draw off games being played. So,
give or take, I mean, you have at minimum 3 games and at maximum 5 games to pick out of. So, I don't know. I kind of agree with Sean, but I still don't think H2K will be able to take the series. Yeah, well, I mean, I think they'll be. Yeah, but I mean, specifically if you're talking about H2K though, so
true.
I think H2K will take it over Giants, but I think Origin will take it over H2K. That's what I think. But I think it'll be close between H2K and Origin, and I think Fnatic's just gonna sweep it all. But
right. Well, let's talk about that first part of whoever's going to lose to Fnatic. Tom, Unicorns of Love. Are they going to be able to beat your Rocket?
Wait, hold on a second. Wait. Go back a second. Did you say that Rocket is in the playoffs?
Is this a finally?
You know what?
Tom?
I'm so off that as soon as you said that, I had to go back and be like, "Fuck! Did I read that wrong? Did I put it in?"
It doesn't sound like
right,
it,
guys,
right?
I'm done. Goodbye.
It doesn't sound like they should be, but thanks to a little unforgiven luck and elements being elements.
And elements and
so
the throws.
Here's the thing: Copenhagen Wolves beat Roccat this week with the ridiculous run around, steal the Baron, Shen backdoors the entire base while everybody stops Roccat from recalling, and Steve teleports to the wrong thing to save the game. So my faith in Roccat was very, very dim going into day 2, and then they just hate it. And then they single-handedly dismantle Origin for the second time this split, and then basically gave Giants like a very methodical beatdown in their tiebreaker matchup and look pretty good. But they're Roccat, and you never know what Roccat is going to show up, especially when it comes down to their top lane pool. Because Steve is either really good when he was playing the pre-nerf Echo and sometimes playing Rumble when he remembers how to teleport properly, but then sometimes can look really bad, like when they stick him on a Maokai and he has to lane against a Gnar, or they put him in a 1v2 and he's 150 CS down because of all the swaps. So Roccat are really interesting because I don't exactly know how they're going to do, but the same goes for Unicorns of Love, especially because Unicorns of Love now may or may not be playing with Gilius. They may be using Horo, which is another new jungler they're bringing into the mix, albeit Horo on an individual skill level is probably better than Gilius. I don't know if he's as good as Kikis was for the environment of Unicorns of Love, but Horo, back from the MIM days, was basically the only thing that kept MIM in the game for the first 15 minutes. And Unicorns of Love, they really struggle between like 10 and 20 minutes. Unicorns of Love's weakness for this entire split has really been transitioning an early game plan into the late game, because Unicorns of Love really like picking scaling mid laner, somewhat scaling top laner, and then a mid-game AD carry for Vardags, because Vardags probably one of the weaker parts of Unicorns of Love roster. He could play Sivir, he could play Corki, you could put him on Jinx if you want, but then you have triple scaling composition. So Horo may be that piece that Unicorns of Love have like around the 15-minute mark to tie their early game and mid game and knit them together. But I don't necessarily know if it's going to show up, especially because we just talked about Elise, we talked about Nidalee, we talked about importance of jungle champions in this patch, and his opponent is Jankos, who I still hold in high regard as like one of the top 3 junglers in EU. So it's going to be a really, really difficult task. And I really think it's going to come down just to the junglers themselves as to what they're doing, what lanes they're focusing on. And if, like, Jankos camps for Nuke Duck in the mid lane and Horo's camping for Vizichachi in the top lane, I think Nuke Duck is going to be on a way more impactful champion than Vizichachi is, because Vizichachi is prone to picking stupid shit like Poppy. Maybe not specifically the Poppy point, but Vizichachi I don't think can carry as hard as somebody like Power of Evil or Nuke Duck.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't know. I think Unicorns could pull it off, but with the replacing of their new jungler, I'm not sure. Because the reason I always thought Unicorns would be okay in a best-of-5 scenario is, like you're talking about earlier, the way they do picks and bans and the way that you have no idea what the hell they're going to pull out. But with Kikis gone, that's kind of, I don't know, maybe a third to half of what their randomness would come from. You get the random Shaco jungle. Is he going to play Lee Sin? Is he going to play Gragas? Is he going to play... What the hell is he going to play? And then having good synergy with Power of Evil. Kikis and Power of Evil had pretty good synergy for the randomness of their picks. But you took that out of the team. So I'm not 100% sure. But I do agree with you that Horo is a better jungler in the sense of... Because Kikis was really good in the strategy side. I don't think he was mechanically very good. I mean, I think sometimes he could pull something off that was really like, oh, nice, but it wasn't like, oh, yeah, dude, Kikis is such a great jungler. But he'd throw the wild card in that made Unicorns of Love the Unicorns of Love, essentially. So without them, I really have no idea how they're going to do in the best-of-5 format versus Roccat. So I think if Roccat prepares better and bans out Unicorns of Love, which is kind of possible now that you can focus on Power of Evil, then I don't know. I think they'll, if they just focus Power of Evil and get Nuke Duck going, and because, like you said, Vizichachi, and it's just he's not good enough to carry a game. Unfortunately, I hate saying that because I really like Unicorns, but I don't think he's good enough to carry a game.
I think
going back to right.
Yeah, I think Chachi's fine,
I don't
but
think he's bad at all.
I don't think
he's great though. Is mostly my thing. I don't think he's great enough to take a huge lead and take it to the Nexus, if that makes sense.
I think Vizichachi is stuck in somewhere in between Odwamne and Cabashard, whereas Cabashard plays like a top lane champion that demands being camped, that like needs to carry the game for Gambit, and whereas Odwamne can play something like a Maokai that is more team oriented but still carry the game on it. I think Vizichachi's kind of somewhere in between because he has his patented carry picks like freaking Poppy or things along those lines where he'll pick that and he'll be like, all right, this game is about Chachi. But then he normally winds up picking Shen, which he actually does extremely well on. So that could be something that they could rely on, is just having Chachi on Shen and using that ultimate and using his lane dominance that way to try to beat out the weaker opponent in Steve. But then he also plays Maokai. So it kind of falls into this matchup where it's like, all right, well, if they get Maokai and then Roccat takes Rumble, like, is that going to be enough to stop Steve from actually doing something once he hits level 6 and gets the Equalizer? I think another big thing is, Chris, as you mentioned, the picks and bans. Unicorns of Love can't play Kalista. Vardags does not play that champion whatsoever. Mr. Rowles is 3-0 on Kalista this split, which means that Unicorns of Love are either going to leave that one open and then have to pick a Sivir into Kalista, into that 2v2 lane matchup, where then Vander's either going to be playing Thresh, Alistar, or Janna, and that's going to be a difficult matchup for the Sivir to get through, or they're going to have to ban the Kalista and then worry about first rotation Sivir being taken away by Roccat, leaving Vardags with a very slim champion pool.
Yeah, because Vardags, that was my other thought too, is that because you love Vizichachi with, I do agree, you can kind of be that hybrid carry, especially with the Yorick. Yorick playing. What
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he played Yorick. So that's why I really liked the. You had Vizichachi. You have no idea what the hell he's going to play. You have no idea what the hell Power of Evil is going to play, and you have no idea what Kikis is going to play, and that kind of leaves the bot lane to be safe, because Vardags can play Sivir, from what I've seen, and I think that's Sivir. And what champion would he play against Sivir? So it's just kind of they pick Sivir comps, and that leaves the pick ban phase pretty easy for Roccat, I think. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes because I want Unicorns to win this. Sorry, but I like them, but I think it's all hope.
that don't really matter this week. This is probably my favorite.
Well, technically, there's no games this week, so there are no games.
Touché.
Thank you, John, for putting that super delay. So,
making sure your calendar didn't melt off your wall.
Yeah, seriously.
Boom.
But Fnatic's gonna win it all. So whoever manages to win,
Yeah, it's true.
Is it going to matter when they hit Fnatic?
No.
Well, it matters, doesn't it, for points and
It
goes to
does.
Worlds. That's about all that matters at this point. If
yeah,
Fnatic
but I mean,
really
the
does
actual
pull it off,
series,
which they
no,
will.
I don't think it matters.
So
I think Fnatic is pretty ready for Worlds at this point.
So, in a perfect world, since even me, who is a giant Roccat fanboy, like, I think, honestly, Roccat might wind up losing to Unicorns 3-2. I think it goes to 5 games no matter what. But
Absolutely.
then, whoever plays against Fnatic, you're going to have a difficult case, like, saying, like, okay, they're going to maybe take a game off of Fnatic. Like, Fnatic just looks nigh unstoppable right now. And maybe some time off, and maybe like a switching of the patch might be something that we have to look into for Fnatic. But they seem to have one of the most solid coaching staffs in Europe. They have the ability to adapt. They have strong individual players that can work around things through really solid team play. Fnatic's really going to be difficult to count them out of making it to the final. The thing I'm most interested in is are we in agreement at all that of Origin or H2K getting out of the semifinal to face them? And then, more importantly, who is going to win the third, fourth place match? Because since the winner of the EULCS automatically goes to Worlds, that means that all the points from last split are shifted down one. So whereas last split you got 90 points for winning and 70 points for second place gets 90 points, third place gets 70, fourth place gets 50, and then the remaining two, I believe, get 20 and 20. So if you wind up getting third place, there's a very high chance that even if you have 0 points, like Roccat or like Giants, you can get yourself into the gauntlet that way.
I'll go ahead and say, because you guys were talking good on H2K. Personally, I don't think H2K is that great. I don't think they're bad, but I think they're second. I do agree with you. I do believe that they're the second best team next to Origin, but I believe they're the only reason that they're actually the second best is due to their competitors. And I think Fnatic is the real team, obviously, clearly, but I think it'll be H2K second, but I still just have to give my 2 cents in to say that I don't think that they are credited with a great team, because they are super inconsistent, and they either will do really well for a week and then really bad, versus Fnatic, or even something like Origin. Like Origin this time hasn't been super good around the Origin at the beginning of the split, I guess would be a better way to say, because the beginning of the split were playing much stronger than I guess the end of the split, but it just doesn't seem like they have all their ducks in a row yet sometimes, but they have their ducks more in a row than the rest of the teams in Europe. So it's going to be kind of a weird third place match, I think, because I do think it will be Fnatic H2K, but for whoever is in third, I really don't know how that's going to turn out, because that was really it's really a crapshoot, honestly. That's the way I kind of look at it. Just there's so much randomness that could happen between all these teams and inconsistencies and weird picks that I think the third place match will be a little bit more interesting, if not more interesting than the finals, because I think Fnatic's just going to sweep this whole thing, but third place matters. So
yeah, especially considering that Unicorns took second last split, and H2K took third. So there's a good chance that is the matchup that fights for those two spots.
See, the worst part about this is, even if Origin gets second place, like if Origin beats H2K needs to get third place to auto-qualify for Worlds, because the ruling states that in the event of tied circuit points, the team who got the most points in summer wins the tiebreaker. So if Origin gets second and gets 90 points, and H2K gets fourth place and gets that's good, they get 50 points. So yeah, they would be at 100. So yeah, H2K just needs to get fourth place. So if H2K beats Giants, Origin needs to win to auto-qualify for Worlds. Otherwise, high chances are Origin is going to be the gauntlet boss, but if Unicorns of Love beat Roccat, then Origin taking second place will be the middle step of the gauntlet, because of Unicorns of Love having the second most circuit points, H2K having the most circuit points, and Fnatic winning the split. So Origin really needs to win all the playoffs to be on easy street for Worlds.
yeah, that's unfortunate.
I think that's the fairest thing that you could ever imagine, because they just got into the LCS.
It's totally
what's
fair.
your best? You should.
It's totally fair. It's just that sucks to have that kind of pressure on the playoffs. This is mostly what it is. It's just like, all right, yeah, so because Unicorns Love and H2K have a nice little cushion of doing well last split. So,
and I mean, Origin still has 1, 2, 3, 4 Worlds competitors on their team. So if anybody's going to deal with the pressure well enough, it's going to be them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of feel like we're going to be seeing, as much as I disagree with a lot of the thing, as much as this disagrees with everything I just talked about, I feel like our third, fourth place match is going to wind up being H2K against Unicorns of Love, seeing who gets the most points and who advances to Worlds automatically. And then Fnatic versus Origin is going to be Fnatic completing the perfect split 3-0 Origin.
I think that's what's going to happen, and I think the third place match is going to be more interesting to watch as far as its stake.
I'm actually kind of excited for that, because the finals would be high stakes no matter what, because if Origin can topple Fnatic, not only will they topple Fnatic and stop their perfect season, but they'll auto-qualify for Worlds by beating the undefeated team, which is pretty cool. And then you also have the third place match that no one wants to miss, because someone's going to auto-qualify for Worlds in that match as well.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Fnatic loses, then Fnatic auto-qualifies, but it doesn't really matter.
So before we depart from Europe and have a word about the games that were actually played this week, let's talk about that bottom. Those teams that didn't do good this week. Gambit Gaming, SK Gaming.
Band given.
Oops, there it is.
Yeah, for those of you who may have missed it, our good friend Forgiven went and was a little toxic, just a little bit. 70%. And now he's been banned for 4 games, which kind of sucks considering these were the games that really he
mattered
him for.
And
he's still banned for 2 relegation games.
2 relegation games. Yep. So the Gambit could be completely relegated.
Unless Gambit loses the first 2 matches and then Forgiven busts in, music blaring, runs down the ramp, throws his cape off, and elbow drops the challenger team back into the people's elbow, circuit.
Dude. The people's elbow.
Well, let's be real. He didn't do that pretty much all season, so I don't expect him to do it now.
And actually, this was my concern at the very beginning of the season when I saw this, that they put Forgiven on Gambit. I was like stoked, but I was kind of... M5 is known for being toxic. So is Gambit. They're Russians. Like, they're a Russian-based kind of team organization. They don't necessarily... They give attitude. Well, they were originally. So this is...
Their players were a Russian-based player base. However, the team is based out of London.
Well, shit. Okay. But anyways.
And Cabochard is French.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And now you have
this was... So
and Betsy
you were not sticking with
Betsy
me
is Swedish, but born in Malaysia.
But... M5 originally was supposed to rush.
Totally derailing this.
Regardless of this. I know, but regardless of this, well, you still got Edward on there. Edward's really toxic. It's been a known thing.
Edward's not on that team. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know this guy Ghosty Pepper.
Yeah, that's Ghosty Pepper.
Who was originally M5. So you pieces of shit. But I don't know. I was pretty surprised because just like when you put toxicity around toxicity, it's gonna just circle jerk itself off until one of you is banned. And sure enough, that's kind of what happened. So
I think it's summed up very nicely when there was a little like 1.5 minute feature that they did, or like video thing that they did in the LCS where they like talked to Sean's about like stepping into Gambit and blah blah blah, and he's like, I don't know, like the team has like this bad rap. It's not like we're evil or anything, and if he has to say that his organization isn't evil, then they're like evil. Super villains. But that makes them awesome. Yeah.
Ooh, is Bump Sean.
Except TSM hasn't been relegated.
And I don't think any of TSM members were ever... Well, Reggie was probably
I was about to say, if Reggie
was actually...
The Rain Man?
Yeah. That's old TSM.
Dyrus was...
the Odd Ones old stream?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everybody.
Literally. Every single one of them.
Their whole team was
Special
toxic.
was a whiny little bitch for a while. Like, it's just...
Every team was as bad as Hotshot GG was. Or every player on TSM was as bad as Hotshot was.
Yeah, it's true. But we had Saint, though, too, so we got a double whammy for CLG.
Okay, but he was barely there. Shut up.
Yeah, yes.
So, I want to take the last 10 minutes of the European segment to actually talk about the games that transpired this week, because unless this is your first time to the show, we usually talk about the games that get played and not just the games that will get played in the future. So, any exciting moments you guys pulled out from this week? I mean, obviously...
Let me demonstrate...
I won't play the whole thing. We did have Poppy played in the very last game of the summer split for Europe. Yeah. Unicorns of Love against Fnatic. There was like a glimmer of hope there for a second, where Huni got taken down for first blood by Vizichachi on Poppy. And for a moment, I thought I could believe. And I instantly went to Twitter and looked at what Optimus Tom was tweeting, because I knew it would be good, because I knew he would be mad, and he was. But then Huni became Huni. And
wasn't he like? Didn't he start off like 1-3 or something, and ended 12-3?
He was 8-3-12 or something like that.
The thing is, ridiculous. You picked Poppy into Rise.
It was already taken.
So, Poppy can eventually get big when you give her like 3 items and 30 minutes of farm, or put her against a mega tank like Dr. Mundo so her Q does something in lane. But Vizichachi got 2 ganks top lane and I believe a solo kill. So Huni started 0-3. Very reminiscent of when Fnatic first picked Rise. I believe it was against Roccat. Huni started 0-3, and then he started doing Rise things. And so this is how you picture the Rise against Poppy matchup. So like Poppy is like this little midget and is like running at you, and Rise has to like bend over and like try to swat the Poppy away for the first like 7 levels. And then once Poppy gets pushed back far enough, Rise just kind of like holds Poppy's head and is like, "Nah, you can't reach me, And then Poppy tries to run away, and he like grabs her by the collar and was like, come back here." And that's pretty much all it was, because eventually Huni just gets like his first item, or just finishes his catalyst and has a tier at that point, and he's like, you know what, I'm Rise, goes into overload state, and just Poppy can't do anything, because Poppy can't run towards Rise because she can't reach him, he kites backwards. Poppy can't run away from Rise because she's perma-rooted because he's in overload state. So yeah, it was not a good top lane matchup. Gilius broke out the Rengar in this one too, which is a little interesting, because that meant that Unicorns of Love's only tank was their support Alistar. And while I do kind of like the Poppy, Rengar, Alistar, Sivir part of the composition, Power of Evil defaults back to his mid lane Kog'Maw, which also needs a lot of time to scale up. So now you have 2 solo laners that need a lot of time to scale, and Rengar, who doesn't have the best ganks pre-level 6. And then it also kind of doesn't synergize with like the run at you composition. Like Victor was left open, and you could have picked Victor into this composition. It would have worked fine.
Or was Orianna banned?
Orianna got banned because of the previous performance by Power of Evil.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, I was like really shocked he didn't pick Orianna, but
like,
it's banned.
Lulu would have been great in this composition, but then you would have had Lulu against Varus, and then you would have had Power of Evil on Lulu, which is not a carry champion, so he doesn't know how to play it. So
should have picked Syndra.
Syndra is also banned.
Oh my god!
If it hadn't been banned, it would have been the perfect pick, because she could have done well in the mid game. But I think this game was just a symptom of UOL still working with Gilius. The Rengar pick, I don't know what the hell that was. And like you're saying, you pick a hard farming carry top laner that needs a lot of items, and then you pick a champ that can't even gank a Rise until level 6.
I think this was this game doesn't really matter for us all that much.
Yeah.
We're playing a team that we've never beat, that no one's ever beat. We have a new jungler. Let's fuck around. Let's be Unicorns of Love. Let's pick something fun. Give the fans something to love. And if it works, great. We're heroes. If it fails, well, we lost to Fnatic.
You lost to support Trundle.
Oh my god, yeah. Support Trundle. What
I love support Trundle. So, support Trundle has 2 things going for him. 1 is a big old pillar, and 2 is his Q. Because an often forgotten part of Trundle's Q is the fact that he steals attack damage for a couple of seconds. So if you are in a fight like level 1 or level 2, and you chomp down on somebody with Trundle's Q, you're stealing what? 10 to 20 damage off of his Q at level 1. It's, I believe it's 20. So you're stealing 20 damage from like a 71 damage AD carry, especially someone who relies off of his AD ratios for his Boomerang Blade and Sivir, and then you have Corki with his ridiculous burst damage from Phosphorus Bomb. Like, Trundle's like the anti-trading support. He doesn't really do much after that, except maybe like whittle away at tanks in lane. But like, if you get one Q down in a fight, you win that trade. So it's really funny to see like Trundle's lane presence, and then all he really does is become like a moving pillar bot at the late game, though. So
hey, he picks up assists like crazy with that.
Yeah. Yellowstar was like, I think 1-0 and 29 this week or something like that in 2 Trundle games.
Not enough to save my fantasy.
Womp, womp, womp.
He's been my carry all season.
So, other than Fnatic going 18-0, I think the only notable things are really the 2 Roccat games, because...
Of course you do.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, we kind of alluded to this in the playoff picture, but Roccat lose a ridiculous base race situation they forced themselves into off of a bad Steve teleport being canceled, and lose to Copenhagen Wolves, and then the next day come back and destroy Origin, 14 kills to 4, 10 towers, 4 dragons, a Baron. Didn't even look like that Origin was really in the game. No surprise, Jankos was playing carry jungle Nidalee in that match, whereas in the previous game against Copenhagen Wolves, he was playing, well, he's Jankos, so everything is carry jungle, but Gragas, which is a little bit more supporty of a jungler. So, I don't know. It just seems like Roccat, they're very, very hot and cold, and like I said, they live and die by the jungler. So we'll have to see who shows up in playoffs.
All right.
I think another match that was important was...
you have 3 minutes.
I have more. Oh, thank you. H2K versus Ordahin on Thursday, which just kind of showed once again that H2K just doesn't have a grasp on the mid game, even when they were ahead. I believe they were ahead at 10 minutes too, and they just fall apart.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah. I was afraid of.
So, that's it. 30 seconds.
Wow. There we go. So moving on to a region that certainly won't take 30 seconds. We have North America.
Tiebreaker weekend.
What happened in North America? Things are so different from week to week.
CLG winning? That's what's happening.
So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the brackets.
For all of you in podcast land that can't see like the angry techno Viking dance that Chris just did, it was very, very awesome.
It's been a long time that I've been wanting to say CLG's in second place for now.
Hey, we started in first place.
We did.
For the first
we were there for a short time.
So speaking of first place, Gravity currently lands in 4th place, and we'll have their matchup against TSM, the current 5th seed. The winner of that best of 5 will go on to play Team Liquid, the number 1 seeded team in North America. On the bottom part of the bracket, we have Impulse, currently 3rd seed, playing up against Dignitas, currently at the 6th. And then, of course, the winner of that game will go on to play Counter Logic Gaming. So we saw a lot of movement this week to really change up how this season played out for North America. The once dominant Gravity losing some pretty crucial games against some pretty non-crucial teams. TDK, their marquee week, 2-0. Jesus, where to even start? Let's go to the brackets. Let's talk TSM versus Gravity.
Well, Gravity's going down at roughly 9.8 meters per second squared, but TSM is falling pretty much equally as fast.
Yep, Gravity will win it.
I'm not so certain.
TSM's also been dropping for much longer, too.
Yeah, I don't really know. So Gravity this week kind of demonstrated that they're still a very young team and don't necessarily deal with pressure situations as well. And we also saw a very big weakness come in their tiebreaker match against TIP. Not the match they played with them on day one, but the tiebreaker match to determine who got third and who got fourth. And that was really... So Gravity had been known for some very cheeky level ones throughout the earlier weeks of the split and kind of fell off in doing those. They tried to do one of those in this game against TIP, but all it really did was piss off Rush. And then Rush just kind of made it his mission to make Move's life miserable and show who was the dominant Korean jungler in the NALCS.
Boy, did he.
And he just kind of, for lack of better words, made him his bitch.
Yeah.
So
he really did, though.
Gravity had a very glaring weakness, which was when certain things are taken away from them or certain things are presented and they have an idea in their head and it doesn't get executed properly, they kind of fall apart at the seams. So very much like a worse version of H2K, I guess I would say, with arguably some stronger individual players, especially with Keen being able to counterpick people on red side a lot. I just think that Gravity kind of their biggest enemy is themselves at this point. Like if they get an idea in their head or a composition they want to execute and they can't do it, then they're going to wind up falling, because TSM is a team that I think they granted they've been struggling a little bit, but TSM is a team that if you present like a flaw or you present a weakness or like a mistake in a game, TSM will be able to capitalize on that.
And I think this is where TSM kind of hits their strides. They're a much better best of 5 team, I think, than they're a best of 1. I mean, there hasn't been a split where we haven't looked at a TSM game. It's most of the time it's multiple ones where we just kind of stop and say, like, why the fuck did they lose that one? Like, just glaring mistakes, losing to teams they shouldn't lose to. But in best of 5s, we just see dominance, and the only people who could really ever upset that was Cloud9, and of course we saw that again in Week 9. Doesn't matter how bad Cloud9 is, they can always beat TSM.
Cloud9 resurgence. Awesome. We'll get to that later.
We will get to that later. So I think this is a make or break week for Gravity. If they can beat TSM, if they can hop onto the TSM's burning train and ride them down just long enough to jump off and grab that semifinal ledge, they'll be in a good spot. But I see TSM take it. I think the pressure's going to get to Gravity, and if I knew more science, I'd make a pun. But I don't.
I see the TSM Gravity matchup really hovering around mid lane. And while Bjergsen has been a rock for TSM, the unpredictability of Keen has always been something that any team has struggled with. And Gravity being the slightly higher seed means that they can opt to take red side more often. And Gravity, until their tiebreaker, had a 100% win rate on red side. So giving Keen the counterpick to Bjergsen and kind of taking the support, like the support beam out of TSM by crippling the mid lane a little bit, can be a Gravity's ticket to victory. But it's really going to be about, what does Santorin do? Does he go to Dyrus at all? Does he camp for bottom lane? Does he get Bjergsen to a comfortable spot so he can be that rock? And does Santorin pick up something that's a little bit more carry-centric than Gragas? Can he put on another really great Rek'Sai performance? Can he do something to disrupt move? Because that's what Tip did against Gravity, and it worked really, really well against them. So I really think that's where it's going to lie.
2 things for TSM for me. One, I agree with you about mid lane, but I agree for different reasons, in the sense of I think a lot's internally going on with Bjergsen and Loco. That's what it seems like. They're having a little bit of disagreements on the coaching-wise, via picks-wise, and Bjergsen's kind of just in this, seems like a rut, for lack of a better term, of just like in this not really comfortable with what's going on. And it's been kind of seeing into his play. And then 2 is pick synergy. In their game against, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. What's the game where, I remember specifically this play, where Lesplay was on Annie and Santorin was on Gragas. What game was that? Was that against
all of TSM's games?
Literally every single one of them? Okay, well, there's one.
They played it against Cloud9 this week, and then Cloud9.
It was Cloud9.
It was
That was
Cloud9
specifically
match.
it. There was one specific engage that I watched on Baron, and it was the
the
sweet
3-man
wombo
stun?
combo. Yes, it was just like, so he flashed in 3-man stun, and immediately after that, Santorin Gragas ults and disengages everything. So it's just kind of like the wombo just went, oh hey, thanks for the save, and it was just like he tried in Santorin tried to ult Lemon Nation into everyone, and he just simply walked away. I watched it. I was like, where did Lemon go? He just walked away. So I think their synergy's really off, because TSM has never done that during the whole split. They have all their ults almost timed perfect, and it was almost like they wanted to interrupt and steal Baron and then disengage from it, and then, oh shit, we should re-engage, and then it was like, oh fuck, no, we shouldn't because I just died. Bjergsen got caught out, and I don't know. It was a really wonky team fight, and I've never seen TSM that I guess bad in their team fights. That's what I think.
That was like really, really interesting, because that was a team fight where there's a lot of miscommunication. Lustboy tends to make aggressive flash engages, especially on Annie. That's like the go-to flash engage champion. You go flash tibbers, lock people up. 3 people got locked up by that Annie flash ultimate. Baron went down after the Annie initiation went down, so TSM, they were looking to stop Baron and then wanted to disengage. So the Gragas barrel was meant to knock Incarnation into them so they could pick up a kill and disengage, but what happened was it knocked Incarnation away, and I believe Incarnation flashed, and he was able to just basically like walk around and then come back into the fight. But during that 3-man stun, prior to the Gragas barrel, there was an opening for Bjergsen to flash WER, and instead Bjergsen walks backwards and away from the Baron pit like they're already disengaging. So that right there is like not only the lack of communication between the two initiators, Gragas and Annie, but a lack of communication on the team of follow up this call no matter what. If you're conflicting in your calls in the middle of a fight, that's a very big glaring thing. If your call is poor, but you follow up on it, at least you know you can learn from that situation. But if there's conflicting calls, that's going to be a very difficult thing for TSM to overcome. But against Gravity, I don't think their team fighting is going to necessarily be the kind of focal point. I think it's really going to rely on map movements. We've seen Hanser in the past couple of weeks be a little bit lost on the map and maybe not having the best teleport usage, and if Dyrus is actually able to out teleport Hanser, I think then TSM doesn't even really have to worry about getting into an awkward team fight phase if they can just get themselves ahead in lane, which is like the old school TSM. Oh, we beat them in lane, we could just roll over them in fights.
That's true.
I'm still not sold on Wild Turtle. I mean, they're going with Wild Turtle now. Keith is back at university now, so I guess Wild Turtle is their pick, but we still haven't seen his performance increase. And I think when you couple that distrust plus the coaching problems plus Bjergsen confidence problems, that stacks up so much, and it's just not a healthy environment.
It's really showing too.
To be honest, speaking as a TSM fan,
really,
I say purge by fire. I say don't go to Worlds. I say lose hard, hate it, feel the pain, and fix it. Don't worry about Worlds.
Yep, the CLG method.
Yeah, well, I hope it doesn't fucking take that long. But
right, welcome to our fandom, man. It sucks. Like,
just TSM has always made decisive decisions that worked out, and this is a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of pussyfooting around an issue. Oh, we're gonna try this. We're gonna look at that. Oloko's gonna be here, but me as Reginald, I'm gonna be the head coach. Fuck that shit. Do what you did with Dyrus. Sit him down, say fix it, here's your opportunity, and do it. And he did it. Wild Turtle didn't make the change.
Didn't he? Yeah. Because I don't think Wild Turtle was the problem in either of these.
No, he wasn't the problem, but I see where Mott's going with this. It's just one issue after the other, and they're all kind of in an area of distrust, kind of how CLG was in the last split, where it's just, where at the end of it, they're all kind of hating each other, and they're just like, yeah, dude, whatever, fuck it, throw their hands up in the air. We're not going to make it, kind of situation. That's what I'm seeing out of them, because they're just, especially I watch TSM Legends sometimes too, and they're just not happy with each other. Is what it kind of seems like. Santorin's pissed all the time. Dyrus is just like, whatever, dude. I've done this 3 times already, 4 times. And Bjergsen is just kind of like this all the time. And the thing that kind of got to me the most, too, was saying that players can overrule a coach. That was my big, whoa, no. Because Loco's a great coach. And the players in Champ Select can say, no, I don't want to play that. I think this works better. And pick something. And that totally fucks up the whole role of a coach. In the sense of, like, the coach is there to be like, no, but I think this and that. His job is to watch you play and to watch your teammate and to watch the opposite team play. And for you to just kind of go, no, I'm going to play Smite Ezreal, screws up everything. So I get the idea of they want the players to play what they're comfortable on in that certain matchup, but to have that go where a player can overrule a coach's saying in Champ Select just is completely pointless. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict is coming from. Is Loco's like, well, what the fuck is my job then, man? If the players can just be in Champ Select and be like, no, I don't want to play that, why do I need to stand here? And I get Bjergsen's point of like, I'd rather have this kind of comp. So it's just there's a whole bunch of I want this side and I want this side, and it's really showing in their fighting styles versus just like you have a lot of people that are like, well, I think we should do this. Well, no, I think we should do this. And this is coming from a CLG fan. So it's very easy to spot.
That's the weird thing, though. Like, at your role as, like, a coach and your duty as a player in respect to your coach is if you are in a situation where you're like, hey, I've been playing this a lot and I feel comfortable on this, you should be able to tell the coach that, and the coach should be able to work that into your pick and ban strategy. So if you see something in picks and bans that you did not predict and you need to go back to that comfort pick, the coach can have something prepared to switch that said pick and ban strategy. If not, then it's up to the player to be more flexible and play something he's less comfortable on that goes with the team composition.
Like High. I would do that all the time in Cloud9. And that was kind of what I really saw in that game of Cloud9 versus TSM was that the shot calling by High won them that game. And the shot calling by TSM lost them that game. It was very obvious, specifically just that with that one Baron fight. Once they saw that everything was blown, High just took Baron, and they just wombo comboed him down and just took the game. Mm-hmm. And it was just a classic C9 wombo combo. Hey, you push your ult, I'm going to push my ult, and we'll all just win the game. And TSM wanted to do that, but certainly didn't pull it off. And it was really weird to watch, because Cloud9's been struggling on their shot calling this whole time. TSM's been doing great, and they just flopped by the end of the split. So...
I think we've been harping a lot on TSM.
Yeah. We're kicking their ass. It's fun. I don't get to do this.
It's great. Yes, it's just so fun.
So I think we could just say, I personally think TSM is going to win it. Yeah. I think they're stronger. I think they're
Welcome
coaching.
To the show.
I know. Screw you. Wait for it. Wait till we get to the next round, my friend. TSM's going to win it surely, solely because I think they're going to outcoach Cop. Their pick and bans are going to be better. They're going to acclimate to a best of 5 better. I don't think Keen in his role as an anti-carry is going to actually be able to shut down Bjergsen because they haven't even been able to do that yet. And Keen is he's different from game to game, not even day to day sometimes. Like he's just like in the middle of the game when he wants to play mid rumble and it looks like a good pick somehow because he's actually up ahead, and then suddenly the game's thrown because Keen got cut out 3 times.
Is this their first best of 5 as well, Gravity?
This is their technically, except for
qualifications. Besides qualifications,
they played playoffs last split, but that was with Cop and St. Vicious.
Okay, so this
is a totally different team.
Different. Because I want Gravity to win. I think they could win, but the thing is I think TSM's experience in a best of 5 format is going to help.
I think it's a 3-1 TSM.
Yeah, I agree. Right. I think Gravity will probably take the first game, and then I think TSM will readjust and take the next 3.
I'm gonna echo the sentiment that Twitch chat actually had. Badger actually chimed in and said Gravity can't let it get to a game 5 because then that means they've already lost. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel the same way. It needs to be a 3-1. If it's a 3-2 at all, it's TSM's favor automatically. I think Gravity really needs to ride the momentum.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to Liquid because I could see it going either way. But
yes, a fluid transition.
The number 1 seed, Liquid.
3 out of 10, Tom. I've heard way better.
Tonight of all nights, Kyle should be here.
Yeah, Kyle should be here.
The anti-mod.
Yeah, seriously, he's just
I mean, he's a producer. He's not the full-time cast yet, but of all nights that he deserves to be here and just take his, I don't know, spotlight, is the night that, first of all, his Liquid wins, and he wins fantasy.
Yeah.
Coming from pretty much last place at one point, I think.
I think Mitch has been down there comfortably warming the last place the whole time.
Thankfully, or leave it to a Canadian to be so polite that he doesn't even come on to gloat about victory and Liquid winning.
Oh, I think he would gloat. Oh boy. But Liquid's an interesting team to me because I don't analyze this for me, but I don't know exactly what it is about Liquid that works so well.
They got their shit together.
Did they? That's the weird thing.
They sure did.
I have been wanting to call Liquid the number one team in NA for a very long time, but nothing they've done until winning the actual split actually convinced me. So on Sunday, when they played Impulse, they were up ridiculously far ahead.
7K, 8K gold, I think is what their lead at one point.
At 15 minutes, when they dove top lane and trapped Kog'Maw and Janna against the wall with the Azir ultimate and picked up 3 kills and took that tower and took mid tower and had dragon control, I was like, great, Team Liquid's gonna win. I'm gonna go get ice cream, because celebration. I go out to get ice cream. I drive like 30 minutes to the ice cream place because I figure, I got plenty of time. I don't need to worry about anything. Liquid's going to be there. The only thing I need to worry about is maybe watching the Cloud9 tiebreaker. And I grab my ice cream, I eat my deliciousness, and I check my phone, and it's like 50 minutes into the game, and Impulse has clawed their way back, and I just like, Liquid, what happened? What are you doing?
That was quite a game.
It was an insane game. That was the one I didn't want to prove, because that was definitely a Liquid throw fest. But my favorite, my thing that I have to say about Liquid was actually a special set at the best, where I think it was the interview afterwards, or was it Riv interviewing him? It was just like, what would you say if I told you back in week 1 that Liquid wins the split? And he's just like, finally. Because he's just like, we have all the best stacked players, essentially. And he's just like, we have all this, and we still haven't won a split. It's about fucking time we win a split. So it's just kind of like, if they didn't win this split, I would have thought that the shit would have just, or not win, but I mean, come out at the end of first or at the end of all the games, that they would have had some major internal issues on the sense of like, why didn't they win? Because seriously, their players are at the current moment arguably the best in their positions for North America, but not necessarily the best as a team. So that's where it's like, I don't know. I think so, because I think Dominate's a very good jungler. I think Guas is one of the best top laners, maybe next to Zion. Mid laner, Phoenix is
Impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think they're top 3.
Yeah.
I will say every player is definitely top 3.
Liquid is like what Cloud9 used to be, where every player can put up an argument to be considered one of the better or top 3 players in their role, but they really come down to team play. But it seems like they never really figure the team play out until 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm. They're not polished. Cloud9 always felt like they were in control.
Yeah, they were so
no matter
polished.
What, they were like, this is what's going to happen early game because we dictated it. And this is exactly how we know it's going to be. We practice this forever. You see Liquid going into the early game, and I think the only team from NA that really has the early game down well is CLG.
Yeah.
Because Liquid will do the same things that CLG does, the setups for the bottom tower dive on the 2v1 top laner. And you'll see CLG walk out ahead, and you'll see Liquid be like, oh, you take aggro. No, you take aggro. And then something weird will happen, and they won't end up coming out ahead anymore.
I will agree with you on that. You'll see a certain play getting set up, and you're like, oh, they got this. You know, because you're watching the whole map. This is going to be totally fine. And then it's like, oh, that just botched really hard. How did they botch that up? Like, how did that get fucked up?
Yeah, it's just a polish issue. It's all it is.
I agree.
If they really pull together, like, I think
but I feel they're getting more polished, and that's why I'm having to have to fight for them a bit, is because it seems like they're all stepping into their collective roles as a team now, but I think that only happened about a week or two ago. So I think we're still seeing that. So we'll see how long it stays. We'll see if it's on the the whole Cloud9 ridiculous 16 game winning streak. If Liquid can do something similar in the sense of their team synergy, but I don't know. I really liked how they played, even in the TIP game where they kind of got too far ahead. We're like, yay, we're gonna win. We just threw.
Yeah.
And if they cannot do that again, then I think that'd be really good.
It'll be really interesting to see, because I think most of us, at least the two Toms, are in agreement that TSM is going to wind up beating Gravity. So it's going to be really interesting to see, because Liquid and TSM play games that are generally the same average game length. And the way that TSM wins a game is they have decent early to mid-game control. Maybe if they fall behind, they wait for their opponents to like make a bad Baron call or a bad fight, and Bjergsen or Wild Turtle to be able to carry them through it. And then they wind up capitalizing on that mistake and then win the game off of that. But that's usually in the later stages of the game, like around 40, 45 minutes. Liquid, on the other hand, make mistakes in the mid-game, like transitioning to like 25, 30-minute mark, even into the later stages of the game, and then take the time to recuperate and come back eventually at about that same point in time. So if Liquid makes a mistake in the middle of the game, can TSM snowball that hard enough to win? Or will they give Liquid the window of opportunity to come back and take that victory away from them? That's the big question mark. And honestly, I'm going to say that in a best-of-5 series, Liquid recovers from the mistake in the time TSM is being wishy-washy more times than TSM is able to punish them for it. So I'm going to give this one to Liquid.
I'd agree with giving it to Liquid. My concern is I'm not sold on Phoenix. I think he's incredible at Azir, at least by NA standards. But I think on the rest of his champion pool is not nearly as polished as Bjergsen's is. I really like Liquid. I think they definitely have much better macro understanding of the map than any other team except for maybe CLG. And even then, they excel in ways that CLG doesn't. But at the end of the day, I do think Liquid's going to win it simply because they play the map better, and I don't think they're going to get outcoached by TSM.
I agree with you about Phoenix. The only thing I think he's super good at is catching other players' mistakes. A lot of people seem to dive Phoenix, CLG, and they're like, yeah, we got this, and it's a quadra kill. And it's just like he's not necessarily the go-getter, kind of Bjergsen, playmaker, boom, but people will underestimate him and make mistakes, and then he catches those mistakes very quickly. And that's what I got to give him some credit for.
So we're all in agreement that pretty much Liquid's the worst team ever, and they're never going to win. Oh, well, hey.
Oh, you
hey,
guys
Kyle.
suck.
What's up?
Right when I
you
joined, you guys are trash talking them.
No.
Kyle,
No, we all agree that
just
Liquid's probably
joined
going to win.
us.
I have just joined us because Mott seems to be having trouble. So why not have another voice to talk about Liquid? You're not done talking about Liquid, are you?
No, we've actually just turned the faucet on.
Oh, thank you.
The Liquid is running.
It's a flowing voice.
So we covered the fact that TSM we think is going to beat Gravity, and now we're kind of like hemming and hawing about what happens when Liquid and TSM match up against each other in a best-of-5 series.
Well, I don't know. Like the last 3 or 4 weeks, Liquid have looked. I mean, I think they went undefeated, right? They've gone like 5 or 6 wins in a row. So I mean, they're looking good. They beat. Well, I guess they lost to CLG, but I mean, still, they're looking extremely good. Their last 2 games in this week looked dominant, or I mean, throwy at times in the freaking Impulse game. That's a different story. But for sure, they're. I think they can beat TSM, especially the way TSM's been playing in the last few weeks, especially losing to Cloud9 again. I'm sure you guys talked about that already. I won't.
Oh yeah. I got your
Not
back.
quite there yet,
The shit
but,
talking for TSM has been real.
We have covered TSM's flaws quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel that Gravity?
But we
is
can
gonna
keep
go
going.
against them?
Don't let us stop that.
I mean, it's never too late to stop talking about TSM. I think Gravity has just shown that they are weak when they don't have their best champions, I guess is the word. Like their shot calling hasn't been terrible in the last couple of weeks, but since I guess last week. Was it last week when they lost one of their games? No, they didn't lose last week. This week. They lost to TDK this week. That's the biggest thing. It was off of a spiral kind of thing with a Draven, though. And I'm not sure if they just felt that the game was over at that point or what, but they haven't been looking like the Gravity that took the lead a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, 3 weeks. But this is also the best of one format, too. The best of one format allows Gravity to hit their niche of where they can just do something weird. Let Keen do something bizarre, Jarvan mid, Urgot mid, and then just kind of win off of a...
Okay,
I don't want to say cheese, but...
And I won't take the argument either of if they get red side, they'll win because they lost their game against Impulse when they were on red side, so it doesn't matter if they get a counter pick or not. I feel like if they get outpicked, they're behind already, obviously being outpicked. And I think if they don't get ahead by a lot in the early game, they're not a team to make the comeback kind of plays. Especially the Team 8 game was a great example of this, where they got behind early and they stayed behind until Move just did stuff that he shouldn't have been able to do because Team 8's a lower grade team and they allowed him to do it. But I mean, still, that game was a perfect example of how they're weak in their early game, and it was a crazy late game play that allowed them to come back in it.
So we've talked about this pretty in depth. I want to run through just really quickly final thoughts. TSM or Gravity, and I'm just going to go around the room. Tom.
TSM.
TSM or Liquid?
Liquid.
Chris. TSM or Gravity?
TSM.
Liquid or TSM?
Liquid.
Kyle?
TSM, then Liquid, obviously. Do you even have to ask me?
Sean? Well, it could have been Gravity.
No, it's not going to be Gravity, though.
Sean?
I wish it was Gravity.
TSM 3-1, Liquid 3-2.
Mott.
Mott?
Mott.
If I can't be true to myself, who can I be true to?
You could be true to the part
CLG.
where you said, trial by fire, purge, don't make worlds, fix what's broken.
Tom, if you would.
Yes.
Continue the thought process.
Don't make
so
worlds.
TSM gets over Liquid.
No, they don't.
And then CLG beats them in the finals.
And then TSM goes to Worlds because they have the most
and
circuit
Sean
points.
go partying in the streets.
I don't even care if they go to Worlds after that. I'll be so happy.
Quick question.
Go partying in the streets
90 circuit points for TSM. In order
if they get...
Yes?
All right, well, hold on. So, how many circuit points does TSM have?
90.
They have
so
90
here's
right
the
now.
scenario. TSM needs either... They need CLG or the person that wins that quarterfinal. So either CLG, TIP, or Dignitas to win the split against Team Liquid. Then Team Liquid has the most circuit points and goes to Worlds as the number 2 seed. TSM becomes the Gauntlet boss, and then TSM would have to lose in the Gauntlet finals to Cloud9.
And it would happen.
Which would definitely happen if that...
Also, Cloud9's not guaranteed to get into the Gauntlet, right?
They are not.
Yes.
But
Aren't they?
No, they are not because they have 70 points, and technically, if TSM does not win, then whoever wins automatically goes. TSM has the most points, and then, like, let's say Team Liquid, let's see, like, TSM gets second and CLG wins. Team Liquid gets third and Gravity gets fourth. Then they all have more points than Cloud9, and I believe Cloud9 would not make it into the Gauntlet then.
Don't you have to be in the top 6 to be in the Gauntlet?
No, they saved their Worlds chances by getting 7th place.
No. I mean, like in circuit points at the end. Isn't it the top 6 that go through the Gauntlet, or is it top 4?
It's
anyone
the top
points.
It's the one who has the most points goes to Worlds. So then the second place is automatically first place, third place is second, and then fourth and fifth. So you need to be in the top 5 for circuit points. The most circuit points automatically goes, and the remaining 4 compete.
So I think it's if Dignitas or Impulse get points, then they push Cloud9 down. I think that's how it goes.
I think it's if TSM or Team Liquid don't auto-qualify, then Cloud9 has a very high chance of being pushed out, because if TSM beats Liquid, and then loses, TSM has the most circuit points, Liquid has the second most circuit points, and then I believe it would be
Impulse, I think.
Impulse could have the third most, and then if CLG gets third, then CLG would also have 70 points, and the tiebreaker goes to whoever has the most points in the summer playoffs. So then Cloud9 would be kicked out of the gauntlet.
So
There's a lot of scenarios
There's
there.
a lot of scenarios, and if Liquid or TSM win it all, then Cloud9 is most likely in the gauntlet.
Because the teams right next to them would already be in, so it just mean the other ones.
4 teams go into the gauntlet, right?
4 teams, yeah.
How many points does Dig have from the
0.
Right, so they wouldn't be able to really.
If they finished like in second place or third, I think they would.
Right, yeah, so they wouldn't be able to knock them out, which means that
second place gets 90 points this split because first place automatically qualifies, whereas second place last split only got 70.
Third place gets 70.
Yeah.
Realistically, C9 cannot be knocked out of the gauntlet because Dig would have to run it.
Dig could run the gauntlet, or Tip could run the gauntlet, or CLG could
have to run the playoffs.
Dig would have to finish third place, I think. If Dignitas finished third place, then they'd have 70 points. Then they'd tie with Cloud9, but Dignitas would get in because they had the summer. Yeah.
I think that's the only method that actually knocks C9 out of the gauntlet.
So let's take it from there.
Okay.
Dignitas versus Tip. What are Tip's, Dignitas's real chances at this?
0.
Now, the one thing to put sort of a spin on our conversation here, Tip lost Xiao Wei Zhao.
Yeah,
now, we don't have enough.
Yeah, but they still have Rush.
Okay, but just
an impact.
Putting this into your earlobes. No competitive ruling as of yet, but Xiao Wei Zhao has been suspended under suspicion of what are they called?
Elo boosting.
Elo boosting.
So here's the weird thing. People are saying that this is the end all be all for Xiao Wei Zhao, and he's never going to play in any LCS again.
Oh, they're just being dramatic.
We have to remember that the previous time players were banned for Elo boosting, I believe it was in 2013, maybe 2014. And
correct. Taiwan.
Yeah, 2013. Well, I mean LCS.
Okay.
Let's run down the list of players that were punished for Elo boosting that everybody never saw again. Don't Mash Me, Afromu, Chuper, Meteos, Nijaki, Rux, and Xsmithy.
Never heard of any of them.
Never saw those guys again.
Who are those? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm not familiar.
Xsmithy can't even hit a smite. Or Sejuani ult.
Why would anybody want to Elo boost with him?
But he can hit more than TSM can. Oh!
While Xiao Wei Zhao is most likely ineligible for the playoffs, I don't think it's the end-all be-all for Xiao Wei Zhao, and the likelihood of if Tip makes Worlds, he could play for them. But that is not the question. The question is, can Tip beat Dignitas? And if Rush puts a bounty on Helios's head, like he did on Move's head, to prove who's the better Korean jungler, Dignitas ain't got no chance in hell that they're beating Team
I think
Pro.
Rush is just going to go insane and win this. But I did have a question for you. So why is it so much serious in the Taiwan area? For example, Toys' team, one of his players just got permabanned essentially for Elo boosting the same.
That wasn't from Taiwan. That was a ban that carried over from Riot Korea.
Yeah.
That they didn't think was going to be carrying over.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a completely.
And they didn't say anything until right before playoffs started in Taiwan.
Okay, all right.
And then
so
they were like, "Well, what the
completely
hell?"
different scenario. Because the only thing I was reading about is that in Taiwan and Korea, it's looked at as identity theft.
Identity theft.
Well, because you have to use your actual identity to log onto the internet. And
okay, all right, never mind. So that makes sense. So completely forget what I said. In that case, I think TIP is totally just going to win.
Yeah, TIP still wins that.
Yeah, I think the
Gate did really good this week. I will have to say, I did not.
Well, when he had his ear.
Yeah, when he had his ear, Gate did fine. But
still, for first game ever on competitive or in front of LCS stage, and to do decently in this sort of pressure around you, I thought was pretty impressive.
I mean,
didn't Incarnation win his first?
Yeah, Incarnation did.
Yeah,
down
but,
100 CS, but
week 1.
So Gate isn't a bad mid laner. Gate is on the upper echelons of the challenger mid laners. It's just that he lacks competitive experience in a higher stakes environment. And while Gate was one of the players in Challenger that like brought Azir out when Azir was relatively new and did extremely well on him. To see him on a comfort pick like that is no surprise. And even if Gate doesn't necessarily do well against Shifter in the mid lane, Shifter never lived up to, like, Shifter's Gohan. Shifter never lived up to his full potential, no matter how many times people said he was the best player in the mid lane. Like, instead of going, like, Super Saiyan 3, he traded in his carry lane powers for, like, Mystic Shifter, and then, like, got his ass kicked by Majin Buu, and then never did anything for the rest of the entire LCS split. So
should have stuck with Goku and not learned
yeah,
school for Chi-Chi.
So
he went to the school route. He did not go the Saiyan route.
Gate, I don't know if Gate is Majin Buu, but considering the trend of pudgy Chinese mid laners that TIP likes to have, he could be Majin Buu.
Seriously, it's so true though. I do just have to interject and say that when I saw Gate on LCS, I was like, wait, is Xiao Zhao playing? And I was like, oh, it's Gate.
So the
first glance, it's the same person. But.
So even if Shifter beats up on Gate in the mid lane, Shifter has shown time and time again that he is incapable of being a Bjergsen and putting the rest of the team on his back and carrying. He needs Gamsu to do something. He needs Core JJ to do something. He needs a secondary carry to play off of, which is where Impulse is going to try to take advantages. Because Apollo and Adrian, not the best duo lane in the NALCS, probably better, and it pains me to say this, probably better than Kiwi Kid and Core JJ. Impact, probably better than Gamsu in a 1v1 situation. And once you put the rush factor into any of those lanes, it heavily swings the matchups in favor of Impulse.
Yeah, Rush is insanely good. I will have to say, though, unless Shifter, but see, this is the best of 5 format where I still think Tip is going to win all of it, but unless Shifter can get a really good game on Ahri, because I will have to say his Ahri plays are very good. He's on other stuff, but even in previous splits, he's been able to carry really heavily or really hard as Ahri. And if they can get that and really focus on that, they maybe have one game.
Is Ahri a good champion right now, though?
What's up? Ahri's
decent.
Yeah, she's good.
Pretty decent. The ability to get the needlessly large even earlier helps out our wave clear.
The new AP items helped a lot with her. And also 14-minute pentakill. So,
well, 14-minute pentakill set up by Gamsu.
Set up all by Gamsu. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If you can get a good synergy between them, you might have a game, maybe 2. But I don't think they're going to get 3 games. Dignitas.
There's a lot of internal problems with Dignitas, too. I think it was after the game up against Enemy that Kiwi Kid was interviewed, and he was talking about just about how unhappy everybody is and how they keep trying to dig into their problems only to find more problems.
Yeah, I got to interview Kiwi Kid when I went down to LCS, and he just has no confidence in the team. I interviewed him the game after they won against DSM, and they were like, "Yeah, it was a good game, but we're gonna lose." And I was like,
"It's hard, man. I mean, look at all of his friends that left."
It totally is. Well, yeah, he wasn't more about that. It was just more in the sense of they don't think they can communicate well enough as a team to be top tier, which I agree.
Right. So, I mean, they just barely squeaked in. So, for the sake of conversation, I think this is where this whole conversation was going in the first place, considering how we started. Let's talk about the potential of Tip versus Counter Logic Gaming.
That'll be close.
Potential.
Go ahead, guys.
So close. I think it'll be 3-2 CLG is my hope, but I really is going to depend on Rush, because Rush is the strong point of Impulse, or at least like the strongest point. Not that they're weak in other point, and Xmithy is Counter Logic's worst. Is the weak point. So if Rush can do the whole, hey, I got a bounty on Xmithy, and just screw Xmithy over the entire series, then I think CLG might have some issues. But if they're at least able to put Xmithy on Gragas, then the lanes are strong for CLG. I think it's straight up in just a lane matchup without Rush in any of the lanes. I think CLG wins every single lane. But Rush adds such a really awkward element, for lack of a better term. Awkward, I guess, being the sense of you don't know which lane he's really going to try and snowball. that it's really going to lean on Rush, I feel, for the DIP versus CLG.
I'm just going to say this. Does it matter more if Rush shows up or if X-Smithy shows up?
If X-Smithy shows up, game's over.
Yeah,
it really matters what the champion pool left open is, because in the tiebreaker match against Liquid, we saw that if Xmithy isn't on Gragas, he doesn't do anything.
No, it does nothing.
They banned away Gragas, and they left open every other jungler. There was Rek'Sai available. There was Sejuani if you wanted to go to her, not necessarily the top tier. Nidalee was taken away, but there were so many things left open. There was Lee Sin, that was Xmithy's kind of fallback jungler, and he picks up Nautilus jungle. I don't know if they were flexing the Nautilus and seeing what the support pick was going to be, and then maybe giving it to Aphromoo, but they stick him on Nautilus jungle, which is a tanky jungler and kind of does things like Gragas, but there's a very big missing part of Nautilus jungle, which is presence in the early game, which Nautilus has none of from the jungle position, and Gragas has a ton of from the jungle position, which is why I'm why did they just not pick Rek'Sai in this case? And if he doesn't play Rek'Sai and only plays Gragas, he's an
to me, I can't believe he's not busting out a tank Jarvan, is what I'm surprised.
Yeah, you could pick Jarvan too.
He used to pick Jarvan back in Season 3, and he used to be really good at it, but he, for some reason, only plays Gragas. If the Gragas is banned, Sejuani, let me just miss all my ults. Oh, Gragas is banned, Lee Sin, let me just lose the game. Oh, Sejuani's banned, Nautilus is shitty. It's if Xmithy is really the weak point, and I feel like that Impulse would be able to focus on that, especially since Rush is so good at counter jungling. I mean, he's almost like Season 2 Diamond Proc kind of status of counter jungling and being everywhere at all the time. And how the hell is he over here now? But the lane-wise, though, especially the Apollo lane versus the Doublelift lane, I think Doublelift has just such a massive advantage in that. And I think that Zion versus Impact is going to be interesting enough, but I feel that Zion might be able to pull that one out. And then there's the Pole Belter versus Gate, where I think Pole Belter will just straight up have the advantage in that, just due to Gate's inexperience and Pole Belter's experience. So I don't know.
One thing I'm really concerned about is in CLG's recent streak, Zion has been able to basically take advantage of how much stronger he is in general than the other top laner, and specifically how much better CLG is in a 2v1 situation. So he exploits that, and he gets ahead on a carry-ish champ. He went a full damage Olaf. Admittedly, I think it was enemy or something, some really bad team.
Teammate.
But it was teammate. Yeah, even worse. Not really. I think they both suck, whatever. He was able to carry the game with that. He's not going to be able to do that against Impact. Impact is at least as good as Zion, if not better, and I think he's better. I think Impact's the best top laner in NA, and I think it's a pretty big margin. But Zion's down there right underneath him. And so I'm kind of afraid of that. Pole Belter has also not been playing well the last 2 weeks. He has not been playing well. He's been playing okay in lane, and he gets blown up immediately in team fights. When he was playing Ez, the last 2 times he's played Ez, I think he missed 50% of his skill shots in team fights.
Yeah.
Extremely skilled fights.
His TF ults were pretty bad. The only hope for Zion really is if he can do a good Gnar game. Because Gnar brings both the carry and the utility. But if Gnar gets banned out, or if Gnar is not in the availability, and they force him on Maokai again, it's going to be...
If Gnar's left up, I'm pretty sure Impact's taking that.
Yeah, Impact plays that a lot.
Or
Shen.
Or Shen. Either one of the two.
And that's crazy.
His Impact's a great Shen, too. So it's just... the top lane's going to be really important in this matchup, I feel. And I feel like that's where I think Russia's strategy is going to be trying to counter gank, or at least set up ganks for top lane and hoping to catch Xmithy, because in a 2v2 scenario, they will win that every time. Russian Impact will beat Zion and Xmithy almost every single time, unless Xmithy's able to get some sort of blindside. But in a 2v2 matchup, they just will outplay them, unless Zion plays Jax. Just can just pull something crazy like that. But then it just leaves, if Doublelift and Afro can get such a lead over Apollo and Adrian, then it's just so it's a very rotations game. I feel this rotations.
It's all gonna
it's gonna be rotatos, dude. It's gonna be all about the rotatos, because if you saw in the last game too, Rush got caught. Well, Rush in the Liquid game, at least in the beginning of it, was in the wrong place at the wrong time for the first 25 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if CLG can make that happen, then I feel that they'll be able to take the lanes and that advantage and push it. But if they are not able, or Rush is in the right place at the right time, then I think it's going to be a completely different game.
It's really interesting.
They can protect. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's really interesting. It kind of feels like it's on Rush to put the early game pressure on CLG and just Rush. But it's on all of CLG to shut Rush down with the rotation. It's going to be like a big team effort from CLG in order to stop Rush from doing what he's doing, like communication between mid lane, jungle, and top lane, communication from bot lane and the lane swap, all that kind of jazz. And when it comes to Rush, it's just like, oh, well, if he does Rush things, then they're in trouble. So it's really interesting to see how is CLG going to allocate their resources. They come in with a really solid early game plan like they normally do, and they cut Rush out of the picture. Boom, CLG is going to wind up winning that one. If TIP is able to throw one wrench in the CLG plans, though, like we said, I find it really difficult to see how CLG is going to bounce back from that.
I think if they can protect X-Smithy in the jungle from Rush for the first 10 minutes, CLG wins that game. I think that's going to happen every single time. As long as they can make sure they know where Rush is, they can move X-Smithy to where he's not, or they can get a 2v1 scenario in which Zion or Afro can just follow Smithy, and then Rush can't even invade. And then last to the 10-minute mark, and everyone's, equal or doing okay, I think CLG wins. I really do think CLG wins this one 3-1. I think TIP is going to get one game, but I think CLG is better coaching. I think they're even enough in the matchups, or they win them. And I think it's very clear what TIP's game plan is almost every single time in terms of what they're going to try to do. Not specifically what they'll do, but exactly what they want to do.
So let's take a step back for a moment here. God, my audio is messed up. And assume for just a moment that it's going to be Liquid that advances through the semifinals. Since I was the only person who advocated for TSM, I'm going to say TSM's going to have a pretty hard time against CLG and TIP, no matter how that matchup goes. But let's just, for the sake of argument, talk about Liquid just one more time.
I'd love it. Please keep going.
Who is going to be the more fortunate matchup for Liquid? Out of assuming, of course, that Dignitas does not advance.
CLG.
I'm going to say
CLG.
Yeah, CLG will be the better matchup for Liquid because both of those teams are very map movement based, very preparation based, they play I'm not going to say a standard game of League of Legends, but they play a very well thought out mind game kind of game of League of Legends, and both of them are prone to, when their early game plans either pan out or don't pan out, are prone to very strange mid game lulls where the other team can capitalize, but they're both capable of bringing it back more times than not. So I think that's the best even matchup. Whereas if Team Liquid were to go up against a TIP in that circumstance, which I personally think might be the actual final in this one, Liquid will have a little bit of a harder time, and it's kind of the same thing that CLG is presented with. Can they make it through the early game, and if so, will they prevail? And I think that Liquid has a better edge in that circumstance just because of their individual players. I think Dom is a very strong jungler, top 3 in NA, and I think he can kind of hold his own against Rush and doesn't require as much assistance or pick and ban phase assistance as Xmithy's going to need. And I think if anybody is going to stand up to impact in the top lane, it's going to be Quas.
All right. So, final thoughts on the final spot. Give the call. Tom, who do you got in the finals?
I think it will be a 3-1 Liquid victory over Impulse.
Kyle?
Do I even have to say it?
But give it games. How many games is it going to take?
It's going to be 4 games, but they're going to beat CLG, not Impulse.
Chris is gone. Sean, new blood. Let's hear it.
3-2 CLG.
Oh you bastard!
CLG. This is our year.
Yeah, you missed the part where Sean is a CLG fan, Kyle.
Why is everybody on the show a goddamn CLG fan?
I'm not a CLG fan.
There's only 2 people.
Okay. Well, actually, I think there's 4, but now.
Yeah,
but
we had Sifa and Cereal Box who were both CLG fans before, and then we rotated them in with Chris and Sean who are both CLG fans now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put either of them as CLG fans.
They've said they were CLG
fans. They've said in the past they're CLG fans. They hate saying it, but I think they've admitted it.
I think they're CLG fans like I'm an enemy fan. Is it the team that I think is going to be the best and I'm going to root for every single time? No, but do I like them? Sure.
Rocket.
Exactly. CLG is everyone.
Still don't understand.
Rocket. I think it's going to be... I don't know why I'm compelled to think differently from everybody in this show, but I think it's going to be TSM in the finals versus TIP.
Okay, you're just being stupid now.
And I think it's going to be 3-2.
3-2 who?
3-2 who?
If you say TSM, you're fired.
It's TIP.
Okay, you redeemed yourself a little, but still.
3-2 TIP over TSM.
Watch TSM actually win the whole thing.
I mean,
TSM... then you're fired.
TSM does have that playoff fire that they just randomly get every single year. So...
Yeah, but every single year they're usually the best team anyway, so I don't know if you call it fire.
They've never had to come back from how poor their showing has been.
Except for against Cloud9.
Except they have.
Like last year at Worlds.
Okay, yeah, let's say this is the first year they haven't been first or second place ever, so I mean...
It's true. Let's see if that playoff fires only because they get a week off in between.
Could be. But it'll be interesting to see. I think North America, while the skill level may not be there, is infinitely more interesting than Europe at the moment.
We'll see about that when Unicorns of Love take on Rocket.
We'll see when Unicorns of Love get into the finals with Fnatic, which can happen.
Can't.
No, it can't.
Nope. They meet the semis first.
Yep, fuck that one up. So let's talk about just the bottom of North America.
Cloud9!
Yeah.
They're not the bottom, technically. They're in the middle.
Not the bottom at all.
Making the run for Worlds. I said this like at week 5. I pointed to Cloud... Well, whatever they switched out Meteos for high. This is like a day before that announcement. I guess it was like maybe like week 6 or 7. But someone came up to me and was like, Tom, so we know what you think about Europe, but what do you think is going to happen in North America? And I said, this is what was going to happen. And I pointed to Team Liquid and TSM, and I said, these 2 teams are going to Worlds. And then they're like, well, then who's the third team that's going to Worlds? And I went all the way down the standings, and I pointed to Cloud9, and I said, that team. And they said, you're drunk. And I was like, no,
I may be.
I may be drunk, but...
I may be, but I am consciously making this decision.
And I was like, listen, they're going to get this shit together. They're going to work as a team. And when they do, they're going to be fantastic and look like Cloud9 of old. And then they put high in for Meteos, and I was like, oh, God, I really am drunk. But this week, despite losing to the worst team we've seen since Coast, which is TDK...
Actually, I think Coast was worse than TDK.
Yes,
but
the worst team since Coast. They came back and beat TSM and then destroyed Team 8 in a tiebreaker match. And while you can say TSM is slumping, Team 8 is not a great team, Cloud9 realistically will be looking at a gauntlet run that will probably have to go through TIP, CLG, and then Liquid, maybe?
No. Well,
it depends
Gravity,
where Liquid
Gravity,
finish.
Gravity.
It'll probably wind up being, in that case, it'll probably wind up being Gravity, TIP, CLG. Cloud9 will have to run the gauntlet through those teams. Potentially can beat Gravity. Don't know if they can beat TIP. Almost looked like they could beat CLG in just the previous week. So it'll be really interesting to see. But I still have a very, very difficult time not seeing TIP making Worlds one way or another, and not seeing TSM and Team Liquid also making it just based off of circuit points.
Right, because TIP is in 4th place, right? Because they have 50 points right now, right? Because they finished 4th last split, so They have 50 or
Who does?
30. Tip.
Tip has 30 because Liquid has 50 from getting third place. Cloud9 has 70, and TSM has 90.
Oh, okay.
And everything shifts down one.
And I think Gravity has like 10 or
auto-relegation.
whatever.
Yeah. Although I don't think a team can get less than 20 points this split. Like, I think 5th and 6th place get 20 points automatically. So if Tip loses in the first round, then they may not make the gauntlet at all, or Cloud9 will have a higher seed than them in the gauntlet, which would be interesting.
Actually, yeah, I think if Tip lose, they don't make gauntlet, because then Dignitas would be guaranteed more
50
points than them.
They'd be guaranteed 50 points, which, would be more than them. Even if they tied at 50 points, tie goes to Dignitas for having more points in the summer split.
Yeah. So if Tip lose, they're out then. That's amazing.
More depressing than that bombshell is the fact that Coast is probably coming back to the LCS.
It's a different team.
We'll have to see.
They still have Chris. They still have to
beat Renegades in a best of 3 series or best of 5 series.
Well,
I think Coast might be able to beat Enemy. I guess that depends. I think you'd be kind of crazy because I'm going to give it to Renegades in the Challenger Series to replace TDK. And I think it'd be crazy not to take. It doesn't matter who.
Mott, you're the Challenger guy. Who's third place in
Cloud9 Tempest?
Cloud9 Tempest.
Well, right.
Or
we're
Imagine.
in brackets now.
Imagine.
We're in brackets now anyway. So
it's actually Imagine.
It's going to be. Well, right. It's going to be Imagine versus Renegades, and Renegades is going to walk over that, and it's Coast versus Cloud9 Tempest. Coast is going to walk over that. The only games that, as I recall, Renegades and Coast have ever lost
is against each other.
So I see Renegades taking it at all because they've got a little bit more experience on their side. But Coast, I think if Enemy gets forced to play them, it's going to be their biggest challenge. Way harder than getting into the LCS is going to be staying in the LCS for Enemy Esports. So, and they have to get their shit together.
Enemy's job got a lot harder by Cloud9 making it to 7th place because Cloud9 would have not been eligible to play Cloud9 Tempest. So Cloud9 would have had to play either Renegades or Coast, and Enemy would have gotten potentially Cloud9 Tempest or Imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it still could have been the scenario where they would have had to play Imagine.
Right, if Cloud9 Tempest beat Coast, you're saying, and then Imagine beat them.
Well, if Renegades beat Imagine and Coast beat Cloud9 Tempest, they go to the finals.
And then 3rd, 4th place match determine who gets the second promotion slot.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Imagine, by the way, Imagine is doing a lot better. Who did they just pick up? Steelback. There it is. Much better with him on their team. So it's a pretty good chance, actually, that Cloud9 Tempest doesn't even get the chance. I don't know if it's going to be good enough. Well, teammate, maybe. I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how to play.
Will Cali Trolls be playing...
Steelback, baby.
Will Cali Trolls be playing for teammate in the promotion tournament?
He said yes.
Yeah.
And then he makes his miraculous leave back to pharmacy school.
Right. Which, good for him for sticking with the education. I mean, playing in the LCS is great and everything like that, but
if you're a bottom tier team, there's not really a point.
But if you're under the age of 23, your career is realistic, and then after that, either Rito, please give me a nice cushy management position, or you're gone. It's just how it is, man. But yeah.
Also, we get rid of TDK, so yay.
For now.
Hey, just imagine if we had that TDK that won all their games in week 9 and the rest of the split.
Yeah, TDK went undefeated this week.
TDK went undefeated this week when they had nothing really to do, and for some reason were able to win with top lane Kazakhs and stuff. But everybody's like, "Oh man, TDK went 3-6 with their with their new roster. Imagine if we had them." Yeah, before this week they were 1-6.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say that means diddly squat.
I still think that once they get back into the Challenger Series, if they stick together, because there's always that Challenger curse of where relegated. Now we're just going to implode as a team. Copenhagen Wolfsligan shook again. But who knows? It'll be interesting to see. So
you know what was interesting to see? Transition. I won fantasy.
We were going to talk about any games that were exciting in North America, but I guess we could talk about fantasy. Which
we all know which game was exciting this week. Tip Liquid. Watch it. Just watch it. You get a throw. You get a throw. Everybody gets a throw. As Doa pointed out on Twitter, which I thought was hysterical and true.
And then Benjamin Button, the LCS, and you get the story of the amazing TDK that just automatically implodes in week 8 and then gets progressively
Draven and
worse
dominate gravity and
as the season goes on.
And then lose their best players for random challenger subs.
It's the best LCS story ever. How to ruin a team. Oh, boy.
Isn't that the Cloud9 story?
Ooh, even the... Actually, the Benjamin Button version of Cloud9 seems like, oh my god, you put high in the mid lane?
Yeah, you go like from now all the way back to the beginning. You're like, wait a second, you got Wild Turtle from TSM?
What? Wait, why are they in the Challenger Series now?
How did they not get it? How did they get out of the LCS?
Oh, God. Silly shit. So, yeah, Fantasy Kyle won.
This is
which all
North
American players. I just want to put that out.
Oh,
I hate auto draft.
Can I just say, though, actually, I will say that we need to actually pick our teams next year. Mott, you need to... You can't just say, nobody...
Don't fucking say it.
I said this at the end of last week. You stopped fucking recording.
How
you don't check
have you been
anything.
here for? How long have you been here for?
40 minutes.
No.
Holy
the show.
shit, we've been here for a while.
How long
I
have
have
I been
tried.
since this show? Like episode 30 something. I think I've been here since.
I have tried to get a goddamn fantasy league going every single split.
We got one the first time.
We did get one the first time.
And I won that one.
Because
I wasn't in that
was the first time it ever happened. And then the next time, everyone's like, yeah, no, we'll do fantasy. Okay, guys, when can you do it?
Pause and hold.
Guys, when can you do it? You know what happened this time? Hey, guys, when can you do it? Guys,
I said I gave my times.
Congratulations.
I gave specific dates
You gave
when
a
we could
time.
do it. I think Tom said he could do
it's
it.
It's not the Mott and Kyle show, unfortunately. Maybe we would have a great schedule if we can.
I don't know.
It could be the Mott and Kyle show on semifinals weekend when TSM plays TL. We could do that.
We're just going to have our own show.
The Tom getting married show, and he's not there.
Wait, that's not semifinals. That's finals.
Semifinals is the week.
The weddings are just one day. They're like a whole 2-week extravaganza.
You don't have an hour and a half at 10 o'clock on a Monday night to talk to buddy about how your team lost?
I've got it's from college coming down.
Anyways, okay, back to my point here. I'm just gonna say auto draft is shit.
It is shit.
And
it was the last resort.
Fox, they need to get their shit together and talk to people because they never do. Ever.
Well, Sifa's like halfway across the world now. So.
It's fine. I understand. He's a busy guy. I understand it. He just needs to let us know. Anyways,
speaking of, if you guys haven't noticed, Sifa is now casting the English stream on Twitch of the LMS, and you should check him out. But LMS is over, so oh well.
Oh man, we missed that. We missed that. Like he missed our fantasy draft. Boom. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, that's it.
I will say, NA best LCS because I won with that. My roster this week was, I'm not kidding you, Haunser. Who the hell was it? Oh, I had Santorin in the jungle. I don't know why I kept him. I had Keen in the mid lane, Piglet 80 carry, Bunny Fufu support, Phoenix as my flex pick, and Team Liquid as my team, and I won.
You know why you won?
Because Liquid went to a 60-minute game.
No, because you played my auto draft team of Giants members.
I made changes to my team, Tom. I did not say that you couldn't make changes.
I made changes to my team because my other team was shit.
Okay, Tom, I'm just going to put it to you this way. I had Betsy and Cabo Shard on my first team.
Yeah, and that worked out great for the first 3 weeks.
When I lost every single game.
I'm just going to say, Zion Spartan had the most points on my team by about 26. And then the next closest person was Adri at 36. That was my fantasy week.
All I can say is Cloud9 let me down this season. Because they were my team at first, and then I had Meteos.
You can't say that because you had all Origin and Fnatic members.
You really did. I still don't know how you lost.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
How you,
is Cloud9 let me down. I had a shit jungler. I never got started with jungle. And Cloud9 was my team. And then who did I replace them with? The only person who was there? Dignitas. That was the best I could do.
I offered you a move for double lift trade 3 separate times throughout this season.
I tried to accept that twice, and I still don't know if that would have worked out for me.
You would have had the 5th highest point getter, and you would have had
for the first highest.
You
would
have
not have double lift on your bench or on your flex for a couple weeks.
No. Well, maybe once.
Well, no, you lost to me because you didn't have double lift on your. Oh no, wait, I still would have won that week anyways. Never mind.
Yeah. No, I had some weird weeks. Like I had one week where I lost to Sifa by like fractions of a point because of fucking Wild Turtle.
Also, can I just say, Tom, you should have won this week because going into Liquid Impulse, I was down by 80 points. The only reason I won was because that game went an hour long.
Hey,
at 30 minutes, no, I'm not kidding you. At 30 minutes, when they were pushing that top inhib, I was down by 22 points.
Yeah.
This fantasy system is screwed up in the fact that if you just play long games and get creep score, you get all the points.
That's what happened. That's why I played all Copenhagen Wolves last split, and I won.
Yeah.
Also,
well, fantasy.
I'm just gonna say one thing beforehand. If you traded me double lift, your backup AD carry was reckless.
What?
No,
Yes, this guy has reckless double lift. He has Expeke. He has Soaz. How do you not?
I had reckless.
Actually,
reckless was my main pick. Double lift was my flex, and on my bench currently,
you have Odwamne. Oh my god, you have Odwamne on your bench.
Froggen, Odwamne, and Trashy. Not on purpose on Trashy. That was an attempted fix at Meteos, then high.
Jesus, man. How did you
thought I had it with move?
Man, you could have flexed Moops as an AD carry. Moops, there it is.
All right. Well, we've taken this episode of the T4 Celsius rundown pretty much to the ground. We opened up with a bang.
We opened up with the biggest, trolliest introduction ever.
Yeah. That came from
I wasn't here to hear it. I think I'd be pissed off if I heard it, seeing how mad you are at it.
Do you like Poppy Watch?
You'll hear it. Don't worry. When you put it together, you'll hear it.
I'm gonna just mute him. Okay, I'm just gonna edit it all out so it'll never happen.
I would not publish that episode.
Now you need to leave it in. Otherwise, there's like 3.5 minutes of silence.
He'd edit it himself. It'd be terrible. My audio would never sync up properly, but he'd do it just to have the Poppy Watch in. That's what happened.
Yep. I would actually just cut off the episode and be like, "Oh, looks like we lost the audio, guys. Sorry, we never talked about Liquid. Goodbye."
Speaking of goodbyes.
All right. This has been the LCS rundown. Tom, take us out.
Liquid what? I called it.